Notre Dame versus Miami, Sunday night, primetime. Your thoughts going into that one?
I think that the big driving talking point is going to be the performance of Carson Beck. I think that Carson Beck is going to massively sway the outcome of this one. I'd be really curious to see what the setting is going to be like opening game of the season. There's a lot more of a rabid attraction to Miami than there's been in the past. If that's a packed stadium, the energy's there. I think that that's also going to be fueling Miami. But Carson Beck, if he can return seamlessly from his injury, he is going to be so integral for them starting off the season with a win against Notre Dame. I heavily lean in favor of Notre Dame, though, because Notre Dame returns a lot of key players in their secondary. They return Leonard Moore. They return Adon Schuler. They return Christian Gray. You have a feeling out period that needs to happen. You do not have an FCS opponent. You do not have a G5 opponent to figure out that feeling out period of a new quarterback who was mistake prone last year coming off of an elbow injury. Like, I think that is going to be the biggest factor in this game why Notre Dame can win it.
So I have three things here. Number one, I do think it's the battle of the quarterbacks in this instance. We have question marks on both, whether it's CJ Carr or whether it's going to be Carson Beck. Regardless of who wins that job for Notre Dame, just replace the name. We'll just say CJ Carr for argument's sake right now, right? Joe, what questions do we get answered? Here's the thing with Carson Beck that I think people overlook. We saw the videos of him throwing this week. Be honest with you, I understand the decision-making. That's a whole different conversation. The first thing that I'm worried about is how does that elbow look? Well, my man's rifling some passes, okay? Decision-making, I'm with you. We can stay there if we need to. The second thing, so we got that. So now it becomes decision-making versus first-time on the road, hostile environment. And I say hostile a little loosely when I talk about Miami and you going there to play. I also look at this and say to myself, Joe, I'm with you on secondary run game, but Carson Beck's played in a lot of massive games. His experience, I think, can help him in that situation, even from a decision-making standpoint. If I'm Miami in that game, and we'll talk about this when we get to week one. If I'm Miami, Joe, I am loading the box down, and I am making the new quarterback beat me. You're going to have to find a way to throw the football. You can play 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You may score. It may be low scoring. I am going to make this young quarterback prove to me that he can beat me. And you know what? If he does, fine, great. Why wouldn't you try to do that? Now, the second thing that I would look here for this one, too, can Miami stop explosive plays, though? Can you load the box? Joe, what was their Achilles heel a year ago? They couldn't stop an explosive plays with a tampon if they had a bloody nose. They could not do it. It was the reason why, number one, they didn't win the ACC. It was the number one reason why they didn't make the playoff. Joe, we got to get that question answered. You have 4 starters in your secondary that are brand new, all from the portal. Even if you do want to stack the boxes, in this instance, CJ Carr going there and sling that rock around. That will be the biggest question mark for me. Lastly, Joe, I think it's a really good and physical Miami run game versus a very physical run defense that you're going to see. I think whoever, regardless of what happens, whoever wins that matchup in Miami is going to win that football game.
I wouldn't be surprised if this game doesn't end up playing out a lot like the Notre Dame Texas A&M game did last year at the beginning of the season, where it was relatively low scoring. A lot of the big plays came in the run game from both teams. And Notre Dame, just after grinding each other down for 3-4 quarters, Notre Dame eventually breaks free and they're able to win the football game. I think that there's a lot of quiet experience along Notre Dame's defensive line that comes back. Boubacar Traore is returning from an injury. Bryce Young is a player that we've talked a lot about. That linebacker room is super physical, and they're going to do whatever they can to slow down this rushing attack. I think that for any Miami fan that wants to say, we're going to come after whatever young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback starting, if it's Carr or Minchie, I feel a lot better about Notre Dame's run game in this matchup than I do about Miami's run game. I think that Miami's going to have a fantastic run game. I think that they're going to run the ball really well this upcoming year. But as you just talked about, there was a lot of inconsistencies with Miami's defense. This is the first game for Heatherman taking over this defense. Again, there's a lot of feeling out that you have to do in a very short period of time against the best, one of the best, before anybody gets pissed at me for implying that this unit is better than the Singleton, Katron Allen group. But Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price are one of the best 1-2 punches in college football. If you give up one big run to Jeremiyah Love, you are going to be already chasing and on your heels. So that, for me, is a lot of this. The uncertainty with Carson Beck, and I think that Notre Dame's run game is going to be an asset for them to turn to.
Another thing about that secondary, just before we move on here, that I want to point out. When I look at some of the receiving options that Notre Dame does have returning, I mean, look, and I'm going to throw Williams in there. Okay, because if you remember in the playoffs, he had at least 3 big catches that sparked them offensively. I do think that they'll utilize him or somebody in that area, but Faison down the stretch. So when we look at Faison down the stretch, Joe, do you remember some of the critical catches he had?
Well, him and Jane Greathouse. Greathouse had some huge plays. His emergence is the big catches.
Thing. Well, Faison had half of his catches in the playoffs. He had 15.
Because he was hurt and he was dealing with an ankle injury. And him, I think that there's a chance that the Notre Dame receiving room looks completely different. And with all those new corners in there, this could be a coming out party for one of them.
Well, hold on. Last 2 years, I said that Notre Dame wasn't good enough there, and you yelled at me. And not trying to go there.
This is a different year, though. This is, I mean, like I know that like I was getting ahead of myself.
Bingo. Hey, now they got some explosiveness, and all I'm going to say is this: if Mike Denbrock gonna call something, he gonna run that inside slot fade route. You best believe it. Malik Neighbors got drafted off of running one fucking route. I promise you. Ask him. I know what he'll tell you. You have 2 dudes that can set you up for that. I've been critical of that position before because I didn't know if they had enough explosiveness. Shit. All right. You go ahead and
now.
They got some explosiveness there. That's an area for Notre Dame when we look at, hell no, they ain't got nobody. All right, watch. And you know how critical I've been. But I know,
I'm shocked that you're giving them credit.
Faison and Greathouse showed the explosiveness down the stretch. Can they build off of that playoff run will be a massive question for me. Joe, let's run to the next